Good evening. I was planning to talk about how awesome I am and then hoping that would inspire you to do cool things as well. But then I heard these speakers here today and I noticed maybe I have to change plan because, there are more awesome people and they inspired you enough. Then I thought, well, maybe I should talk about the opposite of awesomeness, and that's negativity. And it's something that I noticed here everywhere. Like, people are really, really negative these days. And I was surprised, even though I know why, because last time I came here, actually what I encountered was massive positivity. And, it influenced me. My Greece trips influenced me a lot throughout my life. And I'm actually quite happy to be here. And I think if I talk about negativity, it will explain a lot about how I do things, because mostly what I did so far was motivated by people saying no. So it's not like some people mention, don't listen to people that say it's not possible or you shouldn't do that. You should actually listen really closely when people are negative. It's super motivating, super motivating. But maybe not everybody functions like that. I come from a family of fighters. It's really insane. I remember pictures of our kitchen at the Reichensteins where, my uncles were fighting on the floor and calling each other asshole. And that was a way for them to show their love. That's how, hardworking people operate. They also taught me very, very early on not only that fighting is a good thing and, fighting is fun and fighting is a way to show your love. They also said that the worst thing you can do is becoming a student. There's nothing worse than a student. Students cost money. Students don't do anything. They think, right? That's what it means. Strange. And, they forgot that they taught me also to fight. And imagine their faces when I told them, my four uncles, anti-academic people, when I say, well, I plan to study philosophy. I remember my favorite uncle, who was a big fighter as well, saying, I thought he was smart. So, instead of doing things, I started to study, I started thinking, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I don't think I just did it to prove them wrong, but it was definitely a strong motivation. They told me, this study stuff, especially psychology, what is it again? Ology something, you're not going to earn money. There's no way, when you just think about words for 10 years or how long do you want to do that you're going to earn money. And I had to find a solution to that problem because it seemed to make sense, right? And so my solution was, look, if I like doing what I do, and if that doing is thinking, I probably get good at it. And if I get good at it, then I'll make money. Seemed quite logical. And I yet had to prove that. So after putting things into my mind for almost 10 years studying philosophy, I decided that maybe I should try to put thought into things. And so I decided to become a designer. And again, people would say, no, that's not possible. Because designers need to go to design school where they learn how to design and then they design. And you've been doing the opposite. You've been, putting things into thought and not the other way around. How could you possibly become a designer? But somehow it worked. And it was not just to prove people wrong, but probably it was a very strong motivation. It's just how I operate. And so some people started to get amazed. They were like, wow, and then also he earns really well, because I didn't design paper stuff, I designed computer stuff. And in the early 2000s, that was a beautiful business. I worked for a branding agency as a 29-year-old young man, helping them building up, digital branding. And we rebranded Deutsche Telekom, and I designed a lot of stuff with Photoshop skills that were about 6 months old. And I earned much more money than I earn now. because that, back in the day, was a beautiful business. And yeah, well, I did that for almost 4 years for a big branding agency, and you know, my friends were like, yeah, that's impressive, you know. I wouldn't have thought so. Make sure, you know, you keep this job, because that's a great thing, right? Don't change your job. Don't even think about it, right? And I was offered even a better job within that company. And 6 weeks later, I moved to Japan. It's a long story why, but you can imagine that people telling me don't change, it had something to do with it. People in Japan would tell me, don't even think about opening your own company. That's stupid. You don't speak Japanese, you don't know Japanese business culture, they're gonna screw you over, and you're not gonna find jobs, and if you do, they will definitely screw you over, and don't do that. And I had to, right? And they were right. I got screwed over so badly, like twice, once by an insurance and once by the Mormon Church of Japan. Since then, I'm not agnostic anymore. I'm super anti-religion. Seriously, I don't even want to think about it. And then building my company was a big fight, as you might imagine, because I was in a spot where it's really hard now, right? It was really hard being in Japan, not speaking Japanese, with, well, some business experience, but not really, and, well, no clients. And what I did was starting to write blog posts. It was in 2005, about something I didn't know much about, screen typography. I just read a couple of books, and I felt like, well, that could be a cool way to improve, you know, screen design if we use these traditional typographic principles and translate them into, you know, the principles I know better, the screen design principles. Then maybe we could improve a lot how that medium works, because it's a lot about reading, right? And typography is about making things more readable. And as you might imagine, it sounded as geeky as I just sounded, and my wife said, I would stop this with this blog posting. You need to call people, you need to network, you know, you have to go to these networking events and talk to people and try to get a job, you know, because I can't see this happening with these blog posts about stuff that no one understands. And yeah, again, I wrote even more. And funny enough, then Facebook called me. That was just a couple of months after I started writing these blog posts. I wrote something about the cheeseburger, and I think Mark Zuckerberg likes cheeseburgers, and then he said to his product manager that they should call me, and so we can work something out. But it never happened, which is okay, because a couple of months later, I get a telephone call from Switzerland, because I did not only write blog posts, I also started mapping something where people said, you can't do it, it can't be done, which was very motivational, of course. The internet, I mapped the internet, right? I made a big map of the internet. It's called the Web Trend Map. And that thing sold really well. I think we sold 2,000 copies in a couple of weeks. And you know, the beauty about that was that only geeks, of course, are interested in a map about the internet. And so my map was in all geeky offices around the globe. So there was one at Yahoo, and one at Facebook, and one at Google. And so suddenly, I'm a very, very well-known brand. And the Corriere della Sera, imagine that I'm still a one-person company sitting in a little tiny room in Nishi Azabu that doesn't have proper heating in winter and proper cooling in summer. And the Corriere della Sera writes, yeah, this map was done by IA, one of the most famous companies, design companies in the world, right? It's a running gag. It's a running gag. And, you know, my design skills didn't just develop by me doing stuff and writing about stuff, but by fighting with people. So, you know, I would claim certain things, and then in the comment sections, you know, sometimes there were like literally 900, 1,200 comments in these things where I would fight with everyone. And tremendously improved my design skills and my design theory through that, because that's just how I operate. But at a certain point, actually, after this telephone call from Switzerland, the company started doing well, and I wrote less and designed more. And for some reason, these principles I developed fighting with people turned out to be quite successful. And to cut a long story short, that Swiss newspaper had now doubled the visitors, and then there was another newspaper coming, and then things finally started to work. I switched off the comments because, I didn't need them anymore. I had clients to fight with. And and then, everything was cool, and so I needed something new to fight with. Because the company grew, and other people would take the client contact for me, and I could just design quietly in my Tokyo office, while the Zurich office was fighting with the clients, which was very unfortunate. But so I decided to start my own writing software, because through all the time, it's this word thing here. So my idea was to bring down Word, right? So to fight against Word, because there's nothing worse for writers than Microsoft Word. I know there are Microsoft people in here, but everybody agrees, right? Microsoft Word is And, they're still around, so there's still work to do. But one motivation there was that people told me, you can't have a service company and work for clients and have your own product. That doesn't work. You can't do that because it's just no one's done that, and it can't be done. Some people have better arguments. They say you need to focus on something. But actually, if you have different clients, you also need to focus on different clients. So why can you not have your own program? My original speech was about how great it is to have both clients you design for and both end users that use your products in the market. But that's maybe for another time. Because then, my fighting spirit was really tested. And it's tested right here, right now, because every time I talk about this, I lose my voice. I lose all logic, because I was really tested there. And it's kind of traumatic. So, as you know, last year in Japan, there was a big earthquake and a tsunami, and 3 nuclear power plants melted down about 2 car hours away from where I was living. And I sort of didn't know how to deal with this, because I couldn't feel like, melt down, I'll show you how to melt back up, or I didn't know what to do, because it was a form of negativity I was not prepared for, and where I couldn't do anything about it. Well, I decided to go back to Switzerland, which was horrible, because I loved living in Japan. Paul said yesterday, we have to go back to the island. It's like that lost feeling that you get when you live in Japan. It's very, very much a metaphor of Japan, actually, for me, this show. And I really want to go back to the island, but it's kind of difficult with kids. So anyway, coming back, works, because we have an office in Zurich and one in Berlin. And, people told me, oh, no, you can't leave the Japan office without you. This is not going to work. And of course, it's going to work. It worked pretty well. But still, I was just completely depressed. Like, I came back to Switzerland, I had to live with my mom, which is also a very nice person, but it's somehow not how I imagined things to develop. And I didn't know what to do. I was just too depressed to do anything. First couple of months, I just did nothing, because I couldn't do anything. It was like, fuck. It's like everything I fought for all the time was for naught, because I couldn't see beyond somehow. And then I started to develop my own typeface. And for some reason, designing a typeface is like taking LSD or something. It's like you see letters from really close, you zoom out, and then, you're like, oh, that's a beautiful shape here on the upper side of the O, but down here, maybe I have to zoom it in, and like, even it has just a little bit tiny. Ooh, now it's good. No, it's not good. And you do that, and you completely forget time. And I was designing this typeface. Yeah, I did some client work as well, but I just mainly designed this typeface, like completely manic about it, day and night. Like I could hardly sleep. And somehow, things got better. The typeface got better. It takes a long time because it's also something that you can't do, right? You can't just design a typeface. You can't. Don't even think about it. Do not think you can design a typeface. It's like when people tell you, don't think about the pink elephant. For me, it's like, oh, I'm going to go and do it. So, I got motivated again, and you work with beauty and sense, and, I had this idea, make a typeface that works perfectly on every screen, so it has different weights. This whole theory, very geeky, I'm not going to bore you with that. And yeah, I made it, and I'm kind of happy. It's not the most beautiful typeface ever, but I'm quite happy with it, and people told me, you can't use this, especially specialists. They're like, this is not finished, it's not, it has so many mistakes, you can't. It's a nice try, but don't use it on your website, because it's going to hurt you, and people are going to laugh at you. And then I published it on my website, of course. But the good thing was that after all this, I had to publish it, even though I know it's not perfect, but it's good enough. What happened in that meditation, where I designed this typeface, not so much as a reaction, as always there's that element, but because I was positively fascinated by this world, was that I came out on the other end with a completely different attitude. I call it my Zen thing. So as much as I became a Swiss designer in Japan, watching Switzerland from the distance really helped developing these skills, I sort of became Japanese being back in Switzerland. So I had this Zen thing where I told my wife once, it's embarrassing, but you know what? Actually, I don't feel so much like I need to fight anymore. If people attack me, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to show him. I'm going to show this motherfucker who I am. I don't have that anymore, it's gone. And she's like, yeah, I don't really believe that, but, And, I talked to other close friends, what they think about my Zen thing, and they were like, yeah, that you don't have that. And, it became even stronger. So, so what happened was that I used to get really hurt and angry if people attacked me. And the more unfair the attack was, the more angry I get, and most people seem to have that. And that's why a lot of people will tell you, yeah, don't even bother, don't even read that stuff. And I developed this feeling of, you know what? I'm not going to get pessimistic or optimistic. I'm not going to feel positive or negative about people attacking me. I just try to find out what is it really that they want to say, and maybe I can learn something from that. And I know you probably don't believe it either, because it's difficult to explain, but I just thought, well, this is just information. Also, if people attack me, it's just information. And the way I deal with it is I don't react to it, but I try to take it up as much as I can and try to find out why do they say that. And it actually is a much better way to deal with negativity than when you close your perspective. And the spooky thing about this was that, and now it gets very difficult to talk for me, was that I felt like something bad's going to happen, because this prepares me for something even worse. And I couldn't imagine, after 3 nuclear power plants and me having to move out of the country of my choice with my kids and my wife, and that anything worse can happen. But my wife was pregnant, and the baby was about to arrive in 2 months, after I had my Zen thing. And everything went well with the baby. It's a beautiful girl. But my mother developed cancer. And then, my new Zen thing didn't work that well, but I work on the next stage to deal with that. Thank you.